The knife caught the afternoon sunlight as it sliced through my daughter's yellow dress. Scream tore through the quiet suburban air. Sound no father should ever have to hear. When I turned the corner of our driveway, I froze. My 12-year-old daughter, Emma, sat trapped against the garage door, her wheelchair tilted sideways, her small hands trembling and her face pale with shock. Blood seeped through the side of her dress, and standing over her, gripping a kitchen knife, was Margaret Chen, our HOA President. The same woman the neighbors called HOA Karen behind her back. My uniform still clung to me from my morning shift at the county sheriff's office. For a second, time stopped. Then rage took over. I was across the yard before I could think. One moment, I was by my patrol car. The next, my hand was locked around Margaret's wrist, wrenching the knife away. It clattered against the driveway, the sound echoing like thunder. My radio was already in my other hand. 1078. Officer needs assistance. 4425 Maple Ridge Drive. Assault with a deadly weapon on a minor. Victim injured. Suspect in custody. Margaret's face drained of color. She looked from my badge to my eyes, realization hitting her like a freight train. "You're the sheriff," she stammered. "Yes, ma'am," I said coldly. "And you just stabbed my disabled daughter." Over a wheelchair ramp, just 3 hours earlier. Everything had been peaceful. Emma had been outside painting, her therapy, her escape. After the car accident that took her mother's life 2 years ago, art had become her world. That day she was painting butterflies, her mom's favorite. Our portable wheelchair ramp lay extended down the front steps. It wasn't fancy, but it gave Emma freedom. I'd worked 2 months of overtime just to afford it. Then Margaret showed up, clipboard in hand, on one of her routine neighborhood inspections. Her lips pressed into a tight, judgmental line. "That ramp has been out for 3 days," she snapped. Emma looked up, startled but polite. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Chen, Dad's been working late. I just needed to get in and out. The HOA regulations clearly state that all temporary structures must be removed within 24 hours, she replied sharply. "This is your final warning." Emma's voice was soft. "But it's not temporary." "I need it every day." "I can't walk, Mrs. Chen." Margaret's eyes hardened. "I don't care about your excuses. Rules are rules. If that ramp isn't gone by tomorrow, I'll fine your father $500 a day." And then Emma said something that would stay with me forever. "My mom used to say rules should help people, not hurt them. Maybe the HOA could make an exception?" That single sentence broke something inside Margaret. Her face turned crimson. "Your mother isn't here anymore, is she?" she hissed. "Maybe if your father spent less time playing hero in that uniform, your family wouldn't be such a burden on this community." Emma's eyes filled with tears, and that was the moment I should have seen it coming, the hate behind. Margaret's control. When I came home later and found Emma crying, beside her unfinished painting, I made a choice I'd soon regret. I walked over to Margaret's immaculate white house to talk. She opened the door, her smirk as sharp as the knife I'd later take from her hands. "Sheriff Thompson," she said sweetly, "here to beg for an exception?" I kept my tone calm. "Mrs. Chen, under the Fair Housing Act, my daughter's ramp qualifies as medical equipment. It's necessary for her to enter and exit the house safely. Medical equipment should be stored inside when not in use," she replied coldly. "She uses it every day," I said. "That means it's always in use." "I've been HOA president for 15 years, she interrupted. "I know the law better than you, Sheriff. Your daughter's condition doesn't excuse you from community standards." "Community standards?" My voice cracked with anger. "We're talking about a child in a wheelchair, not lawn decor. We're talking about property values," she shot back. "Your eyesore of a ramp brings down the entire neighborhood." I clenched my fists. "Mrs. Chen, please, neighbor to neighbor, don't fine us over a ramp. My daughter's been through enough." Her voice dropped to a venomous whisper. "Maybe if it hurts your wallet enough, you'll move somewhere more appropriate. There are facilities for people like her." I remember staring at her, speechless, people like her, as if Emma were a problem, not a person. "Get off my property," she said coldly, and slammed the door. I walked away, shaking with anger, not knowing that 3 hours later, she'd show up at my home carrying a knife. When the sirens finally cut through the silence, I was still kneeling beside Emma, my hands stained with her blood. The knife lay on the concrete beside us, a glint of silver against the dark red spreading across the driveway. Within minutes, 2 patrol cars screeched to a halt, followed by the ambulance. Detective Sarah Martinez, my second in command and one of the finest officers I've ever known, stepped out. The look in her eyes said everything. "Tell me what happened." "Chief," she said quietly. I forced myself to stay professional, my voice steady though my hands were shaking. HOA President attacked my daughter with a kitchen knife. My daughter's 12, wheelchair-bound, wounds on her right side. Suspect in custody. Sarah's jaw tightened. "We'll take it from here, sir. EMTs are on their way." The paramedics, Rick and Paula, both longtime colleagues, rushed in. Rick glanced at me. "We've got her, John. You stay here." As they lifted Emma onto the stretcher, she reached out for me. "Dad!" I leaned close, brushing her hair from her face. "I'm right here, baby girl. You're gonna be okay." Paula examined the wound quickly. "Shallow laceration about 4 inches long. No deep penetration. She's lucky." Lucky, that word burned through me. My daughter had been attacked with a knife, and we were calling it lucky. When the ambulance pulled away, red lights flashing, the reality finally hit me. The woman who'd stabbed my daughter was sitting handcuffed on my front steps, still trying to talk her way out of it. "This is ridiculous," Margaret shouted. "I was protecting property values." "That ramp violates HOA policy. She's been breaking the rules for days." Officer Riley, one of our newer recruits, looked like he could barely contain his disgust. "Ma'am, I suggest you stop talking." "I will not stop talking," she snapped. "I'm a respected member of this community. I volunteer at the library. I lead the neighborhood watch." Sarah stepped forward, calm but firm. "Margaret Chen, you are under arrest for assault with a deadly weapon, battery on a minor, and child endangerment." Margaret laughed, an ugly, hollow sound. "My husband's a lawyer. You'll regret this. You're only arresting me because your boss is upset." Sarah didn't blink. "Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." By the time the cuffs clicked shut, Margaret's bravado had drained away. She looked smaller, fragile even, like someone who'd just realized there's no talking her way out of the truth. "You'll regret this," she muttered. I didn't respond. I just watched the patrol car drive off, taking with it the woman who'd shattered my daughter's sense of safety. At the hospital, Emma looked impossibly small in that bed. Tubes and bandages surrounded her, but when she saw me, she managed a smile. "Dad?" "I'm okay." I sat beside her and took her hand, careful not to disturb the IV. "Baby girl, I should have been here." She squeezed my hand weakly. "You couldn't have known." "You can't protect me from crazy people, Dad." That broke me, even hurt and stitched up. She was trying to protect me. Dr. Patel, our local ER physician, entered the room, someone I'd worked with on dozens of calls. "Sheriff Thompson," she said, "your daughter's going to be fine. The wound's superficial. We've cleaned and stitched it. No permanent damage." Relief flooded through me, but it didn't last. "However," she continued, her tone darkening, "we'll need to file this as suspected child abuse. The hospital has to document it. And Sheriff, Emma told me everything. That woman attacked a child in a wheelchair over an HOA violation?" I nodded. "That's correct." Dr. Patel shook her head slowly. "I've seen a lot in my career, but this is cruelty beyond reason. Your daughter's brave, Sheriff. Her mother would be proud." At the mention of her mother, Emma's eyes welled up. "You knew Mom?" "I did," Dr. Patel said softly. "She used to volunteer here every Christmas, reading to the kids. She had the kindest heart." Those words hung in the air like a blessing and a wound at the same time. By the next morning, our quiet neighborhood had become a storm. Everyone knew what had happened. Everyone was talking. My phone didn't stop ringing. Fellow officers checking in. The mayor promising justice. Even Emma's school principal offering counseling. And then, people started showing up. Mrs. Patterson from 3 houses down came first, holding a casserole dish like it was a peace offering. "I never liked that woman," she said firmly. "She fined my grandson $200 for drawing hopscotch on his own driveway. A child playing hopscotch. Then came the Johnsons, a young couple who'd moved in last year. They brought flowers for Emma. Margaret tried to fine us for hanging a pride flag, Mr. Johnson said quietly. Said it wasn't family-friendly. We filed a discrimination complaint, but the HOA backed her up. By noon, our kitchen counters were covered in casseroles and cards. The living room full of neighbors who, for the first time, actually felt like a community. But the most unexpected visitor arrived just before sunset. When I opened the door, I froze. Standing there, looking exhausted and hollow-eyed, was David Chen, Margaret's husband. "Sheriff Thompson," he said quietly. "May I come in?" Every instinct told me to slam the door in his face, but something in his expression, regret, shame, maybe both, made me step aside. He clasped his hands together. "I came to apologize. For my wife. For everything." "Your wife stabbed my daughter," I said evenly. "I know," he whispered. "And there are no words for that. I've been married to Margaret for 23 years. I've watched her obsession with control destroy everything. I should have stopped her." I said nothing. He swallowed hard. "I've already spoken to the prosecutor. I'll testify against her if needed. I've filed for divorce and resigned from the HOA board. I'm done protecting her." He reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. "This is a check for $50,000. For Emma. For her recovery, counseling, anything she needs. I know it won't fix what she did, but it's all I can offer." I didn't take it. "Keep your money. I just want her to stay away from my daughter." "She will," he said quickly. "I'm selling the house. She's never coming back here, not after this." His eyes glistened. "Sheriff, I have a daughter too. If someone had done this to her, I'd want to kill them. I understand if you hate me." "I don't hate you," I said after a moment. "I pity you." He nodded slowly. "That's fair. I pity myself too." He left the envelope on the table. "Please take it. Not for me, for Emma. Let some good come from this nightmare." When he was gone, I opened it. The check was real. And inside was a note written in shaking handwriting. "I'm so sorry. I failed as a husband and as a human being. Please tell Emma she's a brave, wonderful girl." Margaret's trial began 6 weeks later. The evidence was overwhelming. Witness statements, Emma's testimony, the knife, even footage from a neighbor's doorbell camera. Her lawyer, slick and confident, tried to twist the story. But no jury could look at Emma and see anything but innocence and courage. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, Margaret didn't react. Not until the judge spoke. "Mrs. Chen," Judge Blackwell said, "you attacked a disabled child. Not in defense, but in arrogance. You used your position to harm, not protect." Then came the sentence, 15 years in prison, $100,000 restitution, and no contact ever again. Margaret finally broke. 15 years? For a scratch? She's fine. The judge's gavel slammed down. "The victim needed 18 stitches. She has nightmares. You didn't just hurt her body. You hurt her spirit." They led Margaret away as she screamed about conspiracies and standards, and when the door shut, silence fell. Emma reached for my hand. "It's over now, Dad." "It's over," I said softly. "She can't hurt you anymore." 3 days later, Detective Martinez called me to the station. "Chief, you need to see this." On the table were dozens of folders, notes, photos. "Files!" "Margaret kept records on everyone," Sarah said. "Every resident, every so-called violation." And then she pulled out the worst part, a file labeled, "The Standards Keepers." "She wasn't alone," Sarah said. "Other HOA presidents, they've been coordinating, sharing methods to push out people they don't want. Disabled, poor, minorities. Anyone who didn't fit their vision of perfection. It was bigger than one woman, and Emma's courage had just exposed it. The FBI launched an investigation. 17 people were charged across 3 counties. The news spread nationwide, and out of that darkness, something beautiful grew. Emma became the face of a movement. Reporters called her the girl who changed the law. A senator introduced Emma's law to protect disabled residents from HOA discrimination. When asked for comment, Emma said, "I don't hate Mrs. Chen. I feel sorry for her. She forgot that rules are supposed to protect people, not punish them." That single line melted hearts across the country. 6 months later, I woke to the sound of drills and voices outside. Dozens of neighbors stood in my yard working together. Mrs. Patterson waved. "We're building Emma a real ramp, permanent this time." Mr. Johnson smiled. "The HOA's gone. We voted to dissolve it." By nightfall, a beautiful wooden ramp stood in place, painted Emma's favorite shade of blue. When she rolled down it for the first time, the neighborhood cheered. "Thank you," she whispered through tears. Mrs. Patterson hugged her. "We should have stood up for you sooner, sweetheart. But we're here now, and we're not going anywhere." That night, as I tucked her into bed, Emma said, "Dad, I want to use Mr. Chen's money to start a foundation for kids like me. I'll name it after Mom." I smiled through tears. She'd love that. A year later, Emma stood on stage at the foundation's first fundraiser. "When Mrs. Chen hurt me," she said, "she thought she was protecting her neighborhood from someone who didn't belong. But a real neighborhood isn't about perfect lawns. It's about kindness." The crowd rose to their feet. That night, sitting with her under the stars, Emma asked, "Do you think Mrs. Chen thinks about what she did?" "I hope so," I said. "I don't forgive her," Emma whispered. "But I don't want to hate her either. Mom wouldn't want that." We sat in silence. Father and daughter. Survivors. Margaret Chen tried to build a perfect community through fear. But it was Emma, the little girl she tried to break, who showed everyone what perfection really was: compassion, courage, and kindness. The ramp Margaret despised became a symbol of hope, of change, of the truth that people matter more than rules. I looked up at the stars. "I love you, Emma." She smiled. "I love you too, Dad." And beneath that wide sky, sitting on our blue ramp built with love, we were finally home. Finally whole.